So I mentioned a little bit of this to the players, and they both, Nate and Helmel, were like, got it, and went with it. Nate chose the big guy, who I had decided was from the southern sort of central location, and was had big chaos feature. And his whole point, though, is that he was raised in this temple, which I decided to call the Merciful Dawn, which runes of fate and chaos. So that if you have chaotic features, they'll sort of take you in, take care of you, and suitably place you in society. It's sort of the home for the chaos children sort of temple. And I kind of also got the idea that although it's one big sprawling pantheon in the north, the Queen of Stars has a bright husband, whereas in the south, the Sun Lord has, his good wife. And they're the same characters, and the myths are pretty much the same, but they're sort of spun socially a little bit differently in those places. And so I sort of said, the sun and daylight is kind of the central southern motif, and the night and the stars are kind of the northern motif. And again, it's not like a big clash. It's just, as you travel, people say things differently. And this, got going. Helma chose the very rangery character, and his name is Skava, the Helma. Whereas Nate's character, the big dude's name is Zort. You can see where I'm going with the names. I'm just having a good time with gutturals, and they, I guess you can see a lot of my habits of GMing, a lot of my tropes kind of just get tossed in a really casual way without really referencing where they're going to go or, how it all fits or anything like that. One of the characters I had made up, Jovan, was more or less story central in that he was from the Southern Imperium, or the area that sort of considers itself an Imperium that unifies governance across these areas, insofar as there is any, that he's from kind of a disfavored sect of the Sun Lord, and he's kind of a high status guy, and so he's traveling up in the Northlands looking for the secrets of the Northern gods, the secrets of the ancient gods, the lost gods. So I had a few characters, that he would know and who would come with him. Zort was one of those. And then I had a couple of northern characters who had sort of hitched up with them. So Skava was clearly their local guide. And another character, Urko, was a northern priest of a secretive kind of sect who's also very interested in buried secrets and would be a good contact for them to have hooked up with. So anyway, I didn't make any other backstory than that. Nothing about personalities, nothing about, reasons, or even what Jovan was about in terms of governance or ideals or whatever. I'm just saying, okay, well, whoever picks them up, they'll work with that. And here I was looking at Zort and Skava, who are, if you will, not really plot driver characters for the premise of these people being together. And also, what was I going to do? I wasn't going to play 4 NPCs, and no. So I said, all right, we're just gonna say, last night, 2 nights ago, y'all got separated. So Zort and Skava are off there in the hills. And remember, I had that image, right? This image that I had found, which was the first image that I had found to think about this, and also was the one that I had posted at the Facebook site for SpelensHus. So it was the attractive picture that would bring people to be interested in playing. And Helma came in. She was already enthusing. She was like, that picture, that's me. I'm on it. We're doing it. And I was like, okay. So there I was with Skava and Zort and this picture. And I had done a little bit of prep with my good friend Dyson Logos, always in the zone of these things, and I had found some cool ruins that he had drawn some years ago that fit right in, especially because the bottom was sealed up and the top was all broken open, which is exactly what I wanted. So what did I do? Of course, I put a chaos monster up top, who's basically if not ravaging the countryside, is at least lurking up there. And then I have the sealed away old god stuff, down below. Fabulous. So, how did it go? You can't get more fabulous. It was really quite good. The mutated woman, who was now kind of a bat thing up there in the tower, was way fun for me to play. Very much in my zone. Absolutely crazy. Still just human enough to be sympathetic. Disturbing. They're still talking about the smell. They had to make constitution rolls, to stand the smell of her lair, and Skava failed it. And so, Helma's still talking about, the nastiness of the lair, and the kind of pathos. That's at other points, people like countryside people talked about, the monster up there, and sort of the idea of, it's the bats are terrible this year and stuff like that. But, and the characters they're like, well, no, we're not going to go back and kill her. I mean, that's just, she's doing the best with a bad hand kind of situation. But anyway, they knew that they really wanted to get down into those caverns, and I was pulling my ideas together pretty quickly here, and had a real clear notion of what they would be encountering in terms of principle. The bat creature knew just enough to warn them, and also not very coherent character, so kind of fun, because you're sort of a John Le Carre thing. The character is like coming up with really important things to say, but they're so damaged, or so their perspective is so off, that what emerges is evocative but not incredibly informative, at least not to that character who's listening. So, there can be too much love, stuff like that. So the fun part is how much Helma and Nate picked up on it. They really internalized. Zort was on his own now. He wasn't with his southern companions, who had sort of, considered him to be a subordinate or menial kind of character. I don't think they picked on him, but he did not grow up with them as equals. And here's Skava, who's from the north, who doesn't think twice about, this or that person having chaos features, and he's like, he's found a buddy, basically. And Skava was like, wait, I was just the guide. Now I'm the one, I'm the one leading the way in. And Helma got really interested in these principles and philosophical sides of things. And so, much to my delight, could have gone either way. In fact, I was kind of expecting, if insofar as I was expecting, she had sort of the chance to deny, the woodswoman, the god she worshipped, in order to break psychologically and spiritually into these lower parts of the ruins, to grapple with what this new principle or new godling or whatever, or new principle to her, old ancient godling kind of problem or whatever it is. And she said she embraced it. And I was like, wow, okay, so that's how they managed to get in there. And Helma was really feeling it. She was like, well, I don't know why I did that, but my character's really curious. This has really fascinated her. And this seems like a really bad idea. And I'm thinking to myself, good, this is great. So that was the first session. As they moved into that area, most of the session had been involved with, fighting bats and exploring around the upper part of the tower and looking at. They found the body, of a previous adventurer. You can see where, grabbing tropes that we're all familiar with. And it was looking, pretty fun. And that was the end of the first session. I think they talked it up a little bit. And so for the second session, 2 more people joined us. One whom I know very well, William, who's also played in a ton of these, games with me. And then a new player, Sandra. And so the 5 of us embarked on session 2. And this time, the first time, I brought all my recording equipment except for the little laptop. And that's why I'm discussing it. Whereas this time, I had all the stuff, and then the session is available. All right, thank you. Embark on this. It's really nothing so profound, but it's building. and the stuff, the context, the setting, the way we look at it. I'm trying to stay, okay, we are adventurers, we're roaming through dangerous places, we learn more and more and more of the fantasy, we embrace more and more of the fantasy, and it becomes a big fantasy adventure. I don't have an epic in mind, I just have stuff going on. Let's see what you encounter next.